This is a story that sounds like a fairy tale, but it is completely true. It is a story about a soldier who fought in the Second World War. He was brave, he was strong, and he was loved by all his friends. But this soldier was not a man. He was a great brown bear. His name was Wojtek, and his story begins in the mountains of Iran during the darkest days of the war. In 1942, a group of Polish soldiers was traveling through Iran. These men were not in their home country. They had been prisoners in the Soviet Union, and now they were free, but they were far from home and had lost everything. They were forming a new army to fight against the Nazis. One day, as they were traveling, they saw a young Iranian boy on the side of the road. The boy was holding a small sack. Inside the sack was a tiny, crying animal. It was a baby brown bear cub. Its mother had been killed by hunters. The bear was small, weak, and alone. The soldiers' hearts were filled with sadness for the little animal. One of the soldiers, a young man named Piotr, decided to buy the cub from the boy. He gave the boy some food and money, and in return he was given the little bear. The soldiers didn't know what to do with a bear, but they could not leave him to die. They fed him condensed milk from an old vodka bottle. They kept him warm at night. They decided to name him Wojtek. In the Polish language, Wojtek means he who enjoys war or smiling warrior. It was the perfect name for him. Wojtek quickly became the unofficial mascot of the 22nd Artillery Supply Company. He was more than a pet. He was one of them. He grew up surrounded by soldiers, so he thought he was a soldier too. He learned to copy what the men did. When they marched, he would stand on his hind legs and try to march with them. When they saluted an officer, Wojtek would raise his paw in a salute too. He loved the men, and the men loved him. He was a source of joy in a time of great sadness. The soldiers wrestled with him. Wojtek was gentle and never hurt anyone. He knew it was a game. He also developed some interesting habits. He loved to drink beer. The soldiers would give him a bottle, and he would drink it all down, just like the men. He also learned to smoke cigarettes, or rather, he would eat them. If someone offered him a lit cigarette, he would take one puff and then swallow it. He was a constant source of amusement and helped to raise the morale of the men who had nothing left but each other. As the war continued, the Polish army was ordered to move from the Middle East to Italy to join the fight against the German and Italian armies. The soldiers packed their bags and their equipment and boarded a ship in Egypt. But there was a problem, a big problem. His name was Wojtek. The British port authorities would not let a wild animal onto the transport ship. They had strict rules. No pets allowed. The Polish soldiers were devastated. Wojtek was not a pet. He was their brother, their friend, their family. Leaving him behind was not an option. They argued with the officials, but the rules were the rules. Then, one of the soldiers had a brilliant idea. If Wojtek was not a pet, what was he? He was a soldier. The Polish soldiers went to their commanding officer and explained the plan. They officially enlisted Wojtek into the Polish army. He was given the rank of private. He was given an official paybook and a serial number. He was now Private Wojtek of the 22nd Artillery Supply Company. When the British officials came to check the ship, the Polish soldiers showed them the documents. The officials were shocked. They had never seen a bear in the army before. But the paperwork was correct. Private Wojtek was an official soldier. They had no choice but to let him on the ship. So Wojtek sailed with his friends to Italy. The war in Italy was very difficult. The soldiers fought in one of the bloodiest and longest battles of the war, the Battle of Monte Cassino. The fighting was fierce, and the soldiers needed a constant supply of ammunition. The men had to carry heavy boxes filled with artillery shells up the steep and dangerous hills. Each box weighed over 100 pounds or 45 kilograms. The work was exhausting and incredibly dangerous. Wojtek was at the camp watching his friends work. He saw them struggle with the heavy boxes. He was a smart bear. He understood that his friends needed help. So without any training or any command, Wojtek stood up on his hind legs, walked over to the truck and put his paws out. The soldiers were amazed. They gave him one of the heavy boxes. Wojtek lifted it with ease and carried it to the artillery position. He walked back and forth from the truck to the guns, carrying the heavy ammunition boxes all day. He never dropped a single one. He just copied his friends, helping them in their important work. The sight of the bear carrying weapons for the army was an incredible inspiration to the men. It gave them strength and hope. After the battle, Wojtek's fame spread throughout the army. He was a hero. The commanding officers recognized his bravery. The 22nd Company was given a new official emblem, a new symbol. It was a picture of a bear carrying a large artillery shell. This became their sign of honor. When the war finally ended in 1945, Wojtek and the men of the 22nd Company could not return to Poland. Their country was now under the control of the Soviet Union, the same country that had imprisoned them years before. So they were sent to a camp in Scotland. Wojtek went with them, of course. He was a local celebrity in Scotland. People would come to see the friendly bear who had fought in the war. But soon, the soldiers had to leave the camp and find new lives. They could not take a giant bear with them. With heavy hearts, they made a difficult decision. In 1947, they gave Wojtek to the Edinburgh Zoo. They knew he would be safe and well cared for there. Wojtek lived in the zoo for the rest of his life. He was very popular with the visitors, but he was often sad. He missed his friends. The Polish soldiers never forgot him. They would often visit him at the zoo. When he heard them speaking Polish, he would become excited and stand up on his hind legs. His old friends would sometimes jump over the fence to wrestle with him, just like they did during the war. They would even throw him cigarettes, which he would happily eat. Wojtek, the soldier bear, died in 1963. He was 21 years old. His story is a legend. There are statues of him in Poland, Scotland, and all over the world. He was more than just a bear who lived with soldiers. He was a symbol of hope and courage. He was a reminder that even in the middle of a terrible war, friendship and love can be found in the most unexpected places. He was not just a bear in the army. He was the soul of the army, a true smiling warrior.